Hi everyone, welcome to IIPC, International Institute of Projectiology and Conscientiology. We are here today to talk about global Maximechanism of Interassistance from the point of view of the neurosciences, projectiology and conscientiology. They were proposed by Dr. Valdo Vieira, a Brazilian researcher, and these fields of study approach the phenomena beyond our physical reality, our material world. And they are phenomena such as energies, the chakras, the out of body experience, perceptions beyond the physical senses, the afterlife, past lives, and future lives, and all this with a rational and objective perspective. And they can be studied without any religious or mystical connotation. And in this way, we can learn more about our evolution, the purpose of our life here on this planet. And before we start, let me remind you of the principle of disbelief that says, don't believe in anything, not even in what you are told here at the institution. Experiment, have your own personal experiences, and always question everything, right? Even the ideas presented here, it's important to analyze them with an open mind and always reflect to see if there is any logic in the ideas and if they resonate with you, right? But first, let me introduce our guest. Mr. Jeffrey Lloyd has a degree in economics and two postgraduate diplomas, one in management, the other in information technology, IT. He's an independent researcher of the neurosciences, projectiology, and conscientiology since 1996. He now resides in Australia, and he was previously the founder and director of a nonprofit organization, ISIC, which is involved in various projects to help internationalize conscientiology, mainly through translation activities, for example. And in addition, he also founded a conscientiology educational center in Australia in the early 2000s, right? And he has volunteered for many institutions. He has taught for IIPC, our institution, and others related like CEAEC, IAC, ISIC and Conscius, and has participated in numerous international congresses and symposia, including the Science of Consciousness Conference, which is a well-known event, right? And also, he is the proposer of an original method to translate neologisms, those new terms that are used in every science, right, from Portuguese into other languages. And he developed that approach working with Dr. Vieira in the translation of the treatise 700 Conscientiology Experiments. I have it here. This is the Portuguese version, right? But it is translated, it is available in English now, thanks to Jeffrey and other volunteers. So, welcome, Jeffrey, and thanks for being here today with us.
Hi, Beatrice. Hi, everyone. It's nice to have the opportunity and the chance to meet you guys and to talk about really interesting and meaningful themes. So, looking forward to it.
Okay, so first let's address the topic of our talk today. Is there a mechanism of interassistance helping the evolution of our planet? Can you explain the concept of Maximechanism to begin with?
Sure. So, look, this is a topic that I think is really really broad. Obviously, we're talking about a global Maximechanism of Interassistance. And I think this has existed throughout history. And I think the challenge for us all is to understand what's the best interpretation of the facts we experience. So we're usually very personal and subjective in our interpretation of things. And as you described during your introduction, what we're trying to do with conscientiology and projectiology is give people the practical experience and exposure and techniques and tools and methods to have the most impartial and realistic interpretation of happenings in our life. So it's a very broad topic, but we won't go everywhere with it. But suffice to say that what the facts, the out of body experience shows us when we have those experiences, and also our parapsychism in conjunction with facts we observe in the intraphysical, we can see that there is indeed a coordination, a mechanism with some kind of a hierarchy. I'm not a big fan of hierarchies, but there seems to be a hierarchy where more experienced consciousnesses, more evolved consciousnesses, consciousness who understand the process of evolution of consciousness very, very deeply and well, help contributing ideas, information, guidance of some form to provoke changes in our environment, changes in our individual way of thinking and understanding things, but in a very discreet manner. So they're not looking to be worshipped. They're not looking to be, put on a pedestal. It's a very horizontal kind of approach that they have, and that we can see and understand that they follow that kind of approach, and it's unbiased as well. So it doesn't matter on the consciousness, on the group. If they're able to be assisted, they assist. And so this is the great thing in terms of the impartiality of this Maximechanism. And I suppose, just to put another perspective on it, is how can we contribute with the best of our energies, the best of our thoughtings, our thoughts, emotions, and energies, to that Maximechanism, and to what degree can we participate in that Maximechanism? Again, in a largely anonymous way, whether it be through Penta or other exteriorizations of energies or out-of-body experiences. Those tools, those abilities, I think, allow us to investigate and to participate. And so, there's a few examples we can give, but I think you might have multiple questions up your sleeve. So let's go to them.
Yeah, precisely. The next question is about that, right? To answer the question of to what point can we exchange lucidly? Can we engage lucidly in this kind of assistance, right? And we can talk about the personal experiences which illustrate these points. So can you tell us about any experiences with the extraphysical helpers?
Yeah, look, there's the key word in our discussions often is lucidity, right? We can participate in things in a way where we're lucid, or we can participate in a way where we're kind of lucid, or we really just don't know that we've been involved in that particular task or activity. And so there's one case study, and there's a link to an article which was published, I think 5 or 7 years ago, something like that, where I was in a course at CEAEC with Conscius, in a field course. And it was interesting reading this the other day and reminding myself of all the details again. And I was being energized in a field course for the second time, which was only supposed to be once, but there was 3 epicons, and I got energized by one, and then I went back to my part by the door where I was looking after things. And then another one from another epicon came and got me and energized, and took me to be energized as well. And I said, I've already been energized. Oh, don't worry, come again. So I was like, okay. So I got in, it was being energized again, and there was telepathy. And so no sounds, no words being physically spoken, but I heard words in my head. And the question came on, do you want more responsibility? And I was like, oh, that's a tricky question. But I said, yeah, sure, can be. And then how much more? And I was like, started to make me a little bit like, oh, nervous. I said, oh, look, you guys have more lucidity, being extraphysical consciousnesses, than I do here. So you do the calculation. If you think I'll manage it, let's go ahead. And then they said region. And I went, region? I didn't say physically, it's just all mental dialogue. And they said region. And I was like, okay, well, don't know what that means. Okay, region, so an area, okay. And then in bright, shining, sparkling letters, big capital letters, came the word Africa. My eyes were closed, but the word came to my mental screen, I suppose you could call it. And Africa, and I went, mate, that's, I didn't say mate, I didn't respond. I just was a little bit shocked and impacted. And I went back to my chair again. I was thinking, well, how do I do anything here? And 3 days later, an invitation came out of the blue. I wasn't searching or seeking for it. It just came out of the blue to go and work in Africa for 3 to 5 months. So I was like, oh, wow, okay. So here's an example of, a clue, some communication of some form, but very indefinite. And then the manifestation of that. So what was my lucidity in that? What was my awareness of the whole procedure? Okay, relatively limited. And also when I got to Africa, a whole different process started energetically. So a lot of exteriorizations of ectoplasm for extended periods throughout the day. With a frequency, so that happens normally, like it happened about 2 or 3 days ago here. There was a big period of exteriorization as well, but it happens, but with such frequency and such regularity, like every day or 2 days, it was happening during the night, when I was at work, during the weekends, just whenever, anytime. And a lot of ectoplasm going. I was going, wow. Well, I didn't know where it was going to or what it was doing, and I still don't know all of what was involved with. But, the environment was good. My emotions were calm. Everything was balanced. My productivity, actually, and funny enough, doing the translation of 700 experiments during one of the revisions, my productivity was 3 times greater than it was when I'm in FARS doing the same activity. So Africa is great for many, many, many things. And there's just another example. But anyway, getting to the chase of the story and moving things on. After I finished that period in Africa for about 4.5 months, a couple of months later, I was back in Brazil. And when I thought about Africa, the ectoplasm started again. So the exteriorization just immediately started kicking off, and the energy would go again. It diminished the longer I was in Brazil. And I was thinking less and less about Africa. And then a couple of months after that, really ceased. I was reading an article on the BBC, and it was talking about how the Nigerian election, another person had won the election and was now the president of Nigeria, or the prime minister. Can't remember what they have there. And I was reading this article, and they were saying it's a great example for Africa, for other countries in Africa. It was really a peaceful transition of power, which often in many countries doesn't happen because people are crazy a lot of the time. And so it was a very positive article. And then there was a change of the energy in the room, a signal, so a tingling, a vibration, and a sound in my ear. Things were different. And then the idea came, you helped with this. And I kind of laughed and went, it's got nothing to do with me. And then the concierge, who was kind of serious, said, you helped with this, all of that energy. And then I remembered all the ectoplasm. I remembered all those exteriorizations. I was like, okay. Could be the little that I know, the few dots of information I have. Okay, take your word for it, but a little bit of doubt obviously in my mind, but again it's a degree of contribution. You're part of a team. It's a Maximechanism. You're a little piece in a bigger thing. And so what was my lucidity of that journey? I've taken time to explain it. My lucidity during it was limited, and maybe there was other things that energy also contributed to that I just don't know about. I haven't connected yet with those things, because for example, if I hadn't read that article, I wouldn't understand where some of it or all of that energy went. And so it's a tricky thing, but it's possible to connect with it, interact with the helpers, with the Maximechanism, and contribute to kind of big projects. Our challenge is to think big and to think in the right way, I think, is our bigger challenge there. So anyway, very long answer, but hopefully there's some interesting points.
No, but it's important to hear all the story to see how it develops. And for the people who want to read more about this, there is this article. I printed it here, but the link is here on the description of the video and also on the chat. So you can download and print it, because it's really interesting to read all the process that you explain here, and also some hypotheses that you bring. But what I think is very interesting is this: when you perceive the ideas, right? Okay, you helped in this, in the process of the elections in Nigeria. And then when you were at the course and you had the perception of the word Africa and region, right? Because maybe this is a perception that we all have, that you who are watching us in your home now can have, and maybe don't realize. So how could you tell us a little bit about that phenomenon? How can you tell that this information that is in your mind is not yours?
Yeah, it's because if you hear things in your head, you could be crazy, right? Like, I mean, we all could be, and so the challenge is to discern between what's a useful communication from a healthy consciousness and what's a not helpful communication from an unhealthy, oftentimes sick consciousness. Because we're all open, each of us is an open system. So the broadcast signals, we're always sending out a broadcast signal. Your thoughts are like a broadcast signal, so others can perceive those. There's well-known scientific studies around telepathy, and it's really strongly proven, but it's still not accepted, because people just aren't mature enough yet to deal with the extraphysical reality of life. I think we will get there, but at the moment, a lot of people aren't mature enough. A lot of groups, a lot of scientists just disregard it because they don't have the courage to experiment, and they don't have the courage necessarily to accept the proof and to see for themselves. So it's a challenge. But so yeah, we're an open system. We send out messages, we receive as well. The thing is what's the quality of and the evolutionary level of the consciousness who is communicating with you? That's the big challenge, right? Like, you could have a pathological crazy one there giving you ideas which you incorporate as your own and think that's how I think. So, but in reality, they're not yours. You might have 1% of that level of craziness, not the 100% that you're having in your head. And so you need to be aware of that and learn the techniques which we teach in Conscientiology, projectiology, and in other areas of lines of research, to help to defend ourselves and little by little get a better understanding of who you are. So like, when you have a good idea of who you are, what is your thought, what is your thinking, where you want to orient yourself in your own day-to-day manifestation, when you've got a clear baseline about who you are, when things are different from that baseline, it's pretty easy to start to discern that's not me. And that consciousness is a bit crazy, Like another example, back when I was in South Africa, a consciousness connected into my energy psychosphere, And he was crazy. Like for 3 days, the first day it was very clear that this raging, yelling, distorted, pathological consciousness wasn't me. Like I'm not like that. The first day he was really crazy. The second day, less crazy, calmer. Third day, almost tranquil about things, because there's a transfusion of energy. So that the ideas don't only come, but they come with energy, and the energy has different qualities. If that energy makes you feel unwell, usually that consciousness that's given you that thought isn't helpful, isn't helping you, isn't positive. And so you need to take whatever information comes at that time with many more grains of salt, right? So you take it with a grain of salt. Like you really would be very judicious, be very careful around following any inspirations or paying a lot of attention and following that line of thought, because it's usually a bit crazy and pathological. And you can often have signals in your body in relation to that. If there's a crazy thought and if I follow it too much, my temple starts twitching, like uncontrollably, spontaneously just twitching. And unless I change my line of thought, that twitching will continue on and on. So pretty quickly, I've got to keep myself more balanced here. And it's the same when it's a very positive consciousness, when it's a really balanced, constructive, insightful, meaningful, impartial, what's the best for everyone here kind of information. And the quality of energy that comes tends to make your discernment and your lucidity amplify. So you think more broadly, you understand more than you did previously, as opposed to the other way, which is like things get narrower and harder, and you often have pain maybe in the back of your head, or you start to get a headache. And so you need to pay attention to all of those kinds of things there.
Yeah, and this is such a great opportunity, because when you start feeling those nasty feelings, and instead of freaking out, you can pay attention and say, oh, this is not me. And maybe there is a consciousness there that was brought but by the helpers. So in contact with your energies, like a transfusion of positive energies, it can help them, they can heal something, right? This is
I think this is the stuff which makes life richer. And for me, it makes life make more sense. Like this is the sort of the secret sauce. It's not a secret. It's everywhere. It's always been there. We weren't taught about it. It wasn't explained to us well. And so, we're stumbling along trying to work things out, but we can apply techniques to help us accelerate that process and those learnings. And so, those thoughts we hear, just observe all the factors, observe all the reactions in you, and see. And I remember Mosier. Mosier was a very experienced and very open-minded guy. Mosier Gonçalves. He was an epicon. He was very, good with energy. He was the first guy who I remember saying, like, in ECP2, pay attention, because you'll hear the mental dialogue. I was like, okay. And as soon as he did that, the first time I was being energized, there was a mental dialogue. I was like, okay, this is cool. This is very clear here. It was very clear dialogue. You can almost hear the different timbre, the different sound of the voice, of the noise of the ideas. You hear the ideas, right? Is really, I suppose, the way to describe it. And that's fascinating. So, good stuff. I see there's heaps of questions coming through. I don't know if we want to.
Let me see.
Some there to.
Yeah, we have lots of questions. Let's see. We have one from Eliane Waslav. Eliane asks, how do you usually perceive ectoplasm in these situations of contact with multidimensionality?
Yeah, different types of ectoplasm. So if it's more neuroectoplasm, for me, it comes out through the nose and it stings a lot more. A lot of the ectoplasm in Africa, there was a bit of neuro, but it was mostly coming up through the stomach. So kind of more of like a hot swelling sensation, and sort of like you wanted to vomit out was the perception that I have of the ectoplasm. In a brief answer, yeah.
Great. Then we have Lygia. Lygia asks, talking about reading old stuff, can we realize the importance of sharing out findings and parapsychic experiences in publications by making, it has two parts, by
Yep.
making them available worldwide? I think we can actually contribute a lot with the global Maximechanism. Do you agree?
I agree, Lygia. I think I agree. We work together on a journal to publish articles in English. So, yeah, it's a great initiative by you, the journal. So congratulations there too. But there's great value in writing stuff down. Like the article which you printed off and showed Beatrice and reminded me of, there's details there which we forget. And so if you write it down at the time and you share that information, it's just such an invaluable resource. And again, these days with the technologies we have, the internet, all the different sites and stuff, you are making a contribution. It might be a little drop in the ocean, but it's a positive contribution. My interpretations of things with time may change, maybe, or other people come with interpretations and other ideas, or you contribute. Like many times someone's talking and then you have your own original idea based on that. So an article is kind of like that. If you look at articles as a way to help you generate new ideas, I think it's great. It's great. Whether it be books, and that's why ISIC has been so focused and dedicated on getting books published into other languages and into other formats, ebooks and stuff. We've been behind the scenes doing the work on all those books that are going to different languages, and so super proud of that. And again, there might be a handful of people watching today, but this video will stay out there for decades, and maybe sometime in 10, 20, 30 years someone reaches out and listens and sees a thing and goes, great, and gets inspired, and as you described, the ideas resonate with you. The ideas, the interpretations, the approaches, the techniques resonate with you or not. And that's cool. We each do what we understand. And again, there's and there has to be an impartiality with our approach to all of this. You take what you can understand and what you can apply, and you leave what you're not interested in. And that's I think a healthy way to approach stuff. So yeah, Lygia, I'm on board with you, and I think the more we write articles and share information, even if we think it's trivial and not important, just put it out there, and the good stuff will stay around and contribute to good things happening. So that's the way.
We have another question from Christina Arakaki. Jeff, could you please talk about the relation between universalism as an intraconsciential attribute and the global Maximechanism of Interassistance?
Yeah, great question, and great attributes to be talking about, right? Like, we all love the theory of universalism because there's just an equality and a balance, and it just brings harmony and cosmoethics. But in practice, how do we actually do that? Are we very universalistic? You can see countless examples where we lack universalism, and we lack universalism in a way because we are still too interested in other things. I mean, if we don't have something developed strongly, it's because our values, our priorities are somewhere else. We define success as dedicating our life and being a multi-millionaire or multi-billionaire, or soon to be trillionaires these days, I suppose. But is that success? Like, you can have all the material stuff, and what do you have extraphysically with you? Good stuff or bad stuff? Healthy consciousness or unbalanced consciousnesses? So universalism, for me, it's essentially a base, isn't it, for the global Maximechanism of Interassistance. And we talked about impartiality. We talked about the unbiased approach of the Maximechanism. It's not like, oh, I'll help you, or if you come to my organization or into my building, I'll help you, but if you don't, then, it's nothing to do with me. Impartiality is universalism, right? There's, the best for everyone. And it's a little bit interesting. I'm working with Margalie, my partner, on another presentation we're going to give in the Apex conference, the existential balance at the end of February. And it's about us as a couple and as an international couple. And we did a little bit of look into our conscientiometric analysis that we did ourselves, where we were both teachers in Conscius for a number of years. And statelessness, apatricialidade, statelessness is the highest attribute we both have in common. It both ranks third for both Margalie and I. So in terms of universalism, our universality, it's an interesting synchronicity or match, and we're both engaged in international endeavors and trying to make these ideas and techniques more open, more available, more easy to encounter. And so universalism for me, Chris, how do we help? Or how can you help if you're not universalistic? You'll be helping a little tiny group. If you're universalistic, you're going to be helping a far greater group. So I think the affinity between those things is huge, is enormous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like in the example the experience you shared in Africa about the elections in Nigeria. So the exteriorization, the ectoplasm, was not to influence in one way or another in the elections. It was just, okay, here's the energy and be the best for everyone.
Yeah, I think we need to know our own limitations, right? Like, am I that knowledgeable and that great that I know what is the best for that country? Mate, what an enormous, or even for any one other individual other than yourself. Like you decide for yourself, but for others, no. Maybe if you're a parent and you're looking after a young child, yeah, you've got to guide and put boundaries and help. But for others, so I think it's a massive human arrogance that many suffer from, is that we think we have the right to do certain things to other people, to other consciousnesses who are evolving. And there's that really strong expression that I think deserves to be taken really seriously, and that of evolutionary rape. You know, it's like you think you know what's best for another person, and you have the right to tell them and boss them and impose. And sorry, I don't see that. I don't agree. You know, America invading another country, or Russia invading another country, or whoever invading where, no, there's no right, you know, and people have to learn their lessons and take their own positions. It's, you know, yes, macro movements can influence us, but this imposition, this intrusion on other people, this lack of respect for the free will of other people, that's just got to end. That's just such a sickness, you know. So we see the unhealthy extraphysical consciousnesses trying to impose, trying to control, and the healthy ones don't do that, right? The healthy, balanced ones don't do that. They maintain this sense of respect. Even if you're way less evolved than they are, they still respect your right to be wrong as many times as you want to be wrong, or respect your right to be correct and more cosmoethical as many times as you want to be correct and cosmoethical. It's completely up to you. And individuals, we each individually own our actions and own those consequences. And then we roll from there, you know. So sorry, a little bit of a carry on, but hopefully it was useful.
Great. We have another one from Luciano. Luciano asks, Jeffrey, thanks for your experiences abroad. Do you have a personal technique to sustain your healthier energies, thoughts in assistance to conscientious?
Yeah, Luciano, thanks for the question. I think the best thing is if you keep reminding yourself who you are, you know, who you are and who you want to be, and what your values and priorities are. There's things like, of course, the vibrational state. There's things like penta. There's things like just doing all sorts of other energetic maneuvers and techniques. But if you have a really strong sense of who you are, I think that's your foundation. If you're really clear about what you think and where you're going to let your mind go. If you have greater self-control and self-discipline around the thoughts that you let yourself think, for me, those are the basics. There's nothing, there's no secret about that stuff. It's just an application. And I guess another thing perhaps to add is, that ongoing intraconsciential recycling, that refinement of who you're choosing to be. You know who you were, you know how you used to think or how you used to be, but how about choosing now who you want to be now? What's the best you can do now? We often live by rules we created for ourselves 10, 15, 20 years ago. We often see ourselves in ways which represent how we were decades ago. And it's not up to date. It's not the current status. It's not the best of your current abilities now, with the information you've learned, with the knowledge you have now. And so how about you give yourself a bit of a break sometimes, and you allow yourself to give yourself an update in terms of who you are. Like, we've all done big mistakes in our past. Perhaps not as many as we've been accused of, but big mistakes, right? And in this life, I'm talking about past lives, it's worse. So, you've got to give yourself even a bigger break there, because you're not the same. We evolve, we change. How much you evolve and change is up to you. I wrote a verbete in Portuguese called self-block. And it's kind of on this line, you limit yourself as much as you want to, right? You're the big limiter in your life, in your evolution, in your existence. It's not other people, it's not other stuff, it's you. And therefore, we're also that solution, right? We are also the ones who can be our biggest liberator, our self-liberation. Self-de-repression is another term I really like as well. And so, just strive, make an effort, apply your energies, take time. And sometimes we need to slow down to speed up in this regard. It sounds odd. Slow down the track of the mind, the speed of the thoughts, and just ponder some things a little bit more. Take 5 minutes even. Sometimes just 5 minutes makes a massive change in how you are seeing yourself, and how you're prepared to see yourself, and in how you're prepared to be as you roll forward. So there's some ideas, hopefully helpful.
Yeah, self-knowledge, it's like basic in conscientiology. It all starts with self-knowledge, right?
Yeah. No, the key, right? I mean, historically, they wrote it on walls in stone, like, know thyself, kind of a thing, from the oracles of Delphi and the like. So it's key. It has to be key. Like, I mean, that's what differentiates us from. We have those tools to have self-knowledge. Other animals perhaps less so, and so let's use the tools we have to the best we can.
Right. So we have a comment from Sergio. It's about walking away from what you think you were. Give ourselves rooms to recycle and move on.
Yes, spot on, right? Take the best of what you've learned. Take the best of your experiences. Don't take the traumas. You need to reconcile and resolve and heal the traumas, but take the best of those experiences, the knowledge, the ideas, the information, the techniques, and take that stuff forward. But the wounds, the resentments, the guilt, the shame, all that, those open wounds that are like weeping pus and blood and a big mess in your emotional body, let them go. And that's why a big part of all of this is like forgiveness, right? Like forgiving people for things they did against you. Try to see things from a broader perspective, be less egocentric. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Magali also says, the more you contribute with your experience, the more you understand what is happening. I think this was about when you were talking about writing.
Yeah. Oops, I think my light just went out a little bit. Sorry about that. That's obviously the battery's gone. But anyway, things happen.
Okay, but we can see you. We can see.
Yeah, it's still okay.
Yeah, so yeah, when you're writing, it's true. When you are putting it on down on the paper, it seems like everything is clearer. You
Yeah,
start
and it helps organize
making
your
no
own
association.
thoughts. It helps organize those your own thoughts and their own experiences inside yourself. So it helps to improve your emotions. You can reconcile with it more. You can update yourself. There's a lot to be said for verbalizing things. Even just saying the words solidifies things, makes things more real, and even more so, and in a different way sometimes when you write them. So, yeah. I see another question there around the topics. You talk about perceptions of a Serenessimus in Australia. Can you talk about that, please? Yeah, we absolutely can talk about this. It's always a pleasure talking about the Serenessimus, right? So for those who don't know, whether that's now or whenever this has been watched in the future, a Serenessimus is a number of there's a number of them. It's not just one, but they're their most evolved consciousnesses we've been able to encounter who still have lives on this planet. They still have physical existences before they move on to the next next phase of evolution. It's a consciousness. And so, yeah, there was a lovely experience years ago where a series of synchronicities and again mental dialogue as well was involved. So there was an idea. I'd chosen a place to have a holiday to in Australia. I was alone, traveling alone. Margalie wasn't with me on this trip, so I was alone and just there enjoying the place. I was driving the car to the hotel, and the idea came: take the next left. And I was like, okay. But everything seemed fine. It was calm and peaceful. So I was like, yeah, okay. So I took the next left and then drove down the road just a 20, 50 meters, something like that, a short distance. And there's this massive sign on the side of the road that says serene. And I was like, oh no, I think it said Sereno or something. Sereno. And I was like, what? Like you don't see that word very often, let alone on a relatively big billboard with the word there. And so I just stopped and I had a massive shower of energy, like tingling from the head down, and was kind of euphoric and laughing. Couldn't believe it, because a Serenessimus, they're kind of hard to encounter, come across physically, particularly extraphysically, perhaps a little bit easier, but it's sort of them who decides about these things. And until now, there's probably other researchers who have identified areas where Serenessimuses are, but Dr. Vieira was the one who really talked first and foremost about Serenessimuses in a more structured and balanced way, and was able to identify a number of them and where they were. And so, it was a real pleasure to be able to encounter this region, this area, and to a degree be guided to the fact that it seems from all accounts, and every time I talk about the Serenessimus, not every time, there's been one or two people I've told about it and I didn't have a shower of energy, but usually when I'm telling people, I get a shower of energy about it. It's just a pleasant experience to be able to talk about and to share. And so, the way that unfolded really was something where I suppose, had my antennas open. I was available mentally. I was very calm. I wasn't agitated. I was in a very relaxing environment and place, and I was having a little bit of a long weekend holiday break. And so, yeah, and then I started to write. I thought it was important to share that information. I wanted to share that information. Back to Lycia's point about sharing the experiences you have, even if you're not sure, put it out there, and then you'll know soon enough if it was a good idea to share or not. Usually it's a good idea, right? As long as we're balanced about our intentions around sharing that. And I ended up giving the consciousness the name Coralis. Coralis because that region is it's a coastal region in Australia, around Hervey Bay. So just the north. It's about 2 hours north of where we live now, and the Great Barrier Reef, this massive reef that goes over 2,000 kilometers off the coast of northeastern Australia, is the biggest living organism on Earth, right? And it starts, the very bottom of it is right around that region. And so when I was thinking, well, what name should we, assign to this consciousness, trying to maintain anonymity, but also trying to bring some understanding of some of the work she's involved with, some of that, the effort and the energies that the consciousness. I said she, could be a he, because we don't know. So yeah, Krylos is the name, and so it was just again another nice little experience where you're touching, and the Serenessimus is the intraphysical apex of this global Maximechanism of Interassistance that we're talking about. So the assistance flows down from them through their team, through their different, types of different consciousnesses who work with them and contribute to making Earth less chaotic, less disorganized, less messy, less problematic. And so, the more we can try to connect with the Holothoscenes and the projects the Serenessimus are working towards and are trying to support, whether it be ecology, whether it be reurbanization of extraphysical environments, whether it be the improving health of the consciousness of living on this planet through any different means possible, while respecting the free will and the rights of individual people. This stuff is all where it seems, if you're aligned with those intentions and you're doing it in a positive and a non-dogmatic and a constructive way, and you're available with your energies and what you have to offer, right? So we've all received a lot in life, a lot, everyone. But many times we're locked in a world of egocentric behavior and egocentric attitudes and egocentric desires, and I want status, I want power, I want authority, I want control. And that goes for many people in many realms of society. Mate, we're lost. We're confused. Our focus, our compass is pointing in the wrong direction. What we want to try to follow is ideas that are more universalistic, that are more assistential, that are really what's the least bad for the most, which is another way of saying what's the best for the most. But sometimes we have to be, the best isn't practically achievable. So it's like, well, in some cases, what's the least bad? When we start to kill our own ego, reduce it in a way, not in a mystical way where, we get all fluffy and fruity and too out there. Keep your feet on the ground, but put your head in the cosmos kind of approach, I think is, a sensible way to do things. Then we can align ourselves, and I think have more and more interactions with this Maximechanism, which is, once we understand the theory, put into practice is rewarding. And again, I think a lot of people do crazy things in life, cover themselves in ink and do all sorts of weird deformity things because they don't feel special, they don't feel unique, and their body isn't different enough for them to reinforce that lack of appreciation for their own individuality. I mean, I hate being told what to do. You can ask my partner. I hate being told what to do. But like I'm into team sports. I'm into games. I'm into these bigger activities of interassistance and stuff. I'm into that, and I follow the rules enough to be individual and to have my own sense of individuality. So I think if we are balanced, and engage in these things, we get a much richer sense of what life can be. It doesn't have to be for everyone at this moment, right now, immediately, but if they want it, it's there. The richness, the awareness, the individuality, the personal needs that you have in your evolution, you can answer. And I don't think too many people recognize that yet, talking about broader society as a whole. And that's sort of something where I think, there's such a massive scope for people to appreciate themselves more, appreciate their individuality more, to know that deeply in themselves, and to be less influenced by external things. I think would be such a healthy change that if we could get there. I'd be having a big smile on my face, but I'll probably be extraphysical by then, but I'll still be smiling. But I think we're talking about millennia. I don't think we're talking in multiple lives. But who knows? Sometimes things change quickly, and so we'll see how we unfold.
Mhm. No, it is. I think it is very interesting to have some information about at least some characteristics that you can use in order to connect with those energies of the Serenessimus. Because when you connect, it's amazing everything that you can learn just by getting in touch with that energy. So you learn how. I mean, for example. Mental, when there is a silence, a mental silence. So this is something that you can learn from those energies. Like,
Yep.
there's no other way. I mean,
And it speaks, silence speaks volumes. Just depends what you're listening to, right? And also, I remember Dr. Vieira, he had those moments in the Titularium and other places, but he'll say, oh, there's a Serenessimus here, feel this. And he would exteriorize energies. And one time I got the flow really well. I connected pretty well. But the main idea was no need to think bad about anybody. There is no need to think badly about anyone. And it's like, and there was no margin for anything. There was just no need. Like, it's just the wrong thing to do. And I was like, okay. Like it. And so theory and practice, right? Like the theory is pretty easy. We all know in practice, but if you have that as a target, it's something to work towards, then it's a good way to go.
no, it's a practical understanding. Like when you tell it, you say it to someone, it's like, okay, yeah, it's obvious, but no, it's not. You understood. with
Like
the
and you
energy.
feel it, so you actually feel it. Like, not just an idea that you have, you feel the whole thing.
Mhm.
And again, that's our challenge, isn't it? Conscientiology, projectiology are great because there's such a coherent set of a massive, broad range of ideas. And the challenge is 1%, all those ideas are 1% theory, and then you've got like 99% practice. And that's our challenge, right? Like, it's easy to be 2 in the theory, 40%, 80%, 90% theory, and 10% practice. No, it's our challenge is to do that.
Yeah, we are
I think we've been
approaching
told
the
off.
end.
We're over time, but
But I wouldn't like to leave Eligia without an answer. She asks if, well, this is a big one. Can you comment about the current moment everyone is facing pandemic in relation to a global urbanization process of the planet, possible involving Serenissimi and our role as a mini piece?
yeah. So the thing came, right? Our evolutionary level on this planet, the way we are, the way we behave, perhaps a lack of respect with the environment and the ecology, and doing things that we potentially could be moving away from. But anyway, the flu came, the COVID came one way or another. COVID-19 is here, has been for, what are we getting into our 3rd year now? And it's had massive changes. I think the big changes we all hoped for probably won't happen that quickly because this is so much legacy, baggage, stuff to change. But there's a lot of, I think, even if something bad happens, the point is to turn lemons into lemonade, right? What are the silver linings? What is the good stuff that can happen? Even if that original thing wasn't great, millions of more people dying isn't a great thing, before their time unnecessarily. all the panic and hysteria, and as opposed to those waves of kind of unification and unity that we felt at the start. Now there's more these diverse camps. That in conjunction with the craziness we've had where, people in authority and positions of power just lie blatantly, and like it's okay. Like they don't not want to lie. They don't not want to do bad things. So the level of ethical and radical permissivity we've allowed ourselves on this planet is just huge. So on the good side, there is greater understanding about certain things now. There is more understanding of, certainly we all know more about viruses now than we did previously. We all understand about the communicability of things. We understand more, and perhaps accept. Maybe we will learn to accept the different opinions more, because all the different opinions are coming to the surface. So even if you really don't agree, maybe we'll learn to at least accept people's rights more. So as I said earlier, you can be wrong as many times as you want, or you could be right as many times as you want. Like whether whoever's right or wrong, I haven't said what I think, but I think if you're sane, if you're balanced, if you're working in harmony with the environment and with each other, and you de-dramatize things as opposed to dramatize things, and you want peaceful things, and you want freedom, and you want to respect the rights of people to make whatever choices they want for themselves. And life's a big experiment, right? Like all of this is a big experiment. You're having your experiment, you're having your experiences in your own way, and that's the way. So, mate, it's just another part of the experiment. What will come of it, yet to be seen completely. I'm hoping for as many good things and silver linings as possible, but we can't be naive. We've had things before. There's a lot of vested interests that are, repressing change and don't want positive changes and things. But we're all learning and growing, and the point is we all just want to see an acceleration in the rhythm of evolution, and that's what the Serenessimus work towards, and that's what we can ourselves try to do in our own life, and for the communities and the areas and the things we're engaged with as well. So I suppose as a wrap up, that's not a bad place to end. But you tell me, Beatrice, you're running the show, please.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. We come to the end of our show today. And is there any information that you would like to share about the next activities of the institution where you are volunteering?
Yep.
ISIC?
Yeah, so ISIC has a series of activities. They all start with the bridge. So the bridge writers, the bridge cultures, the bridge researchers, the bridge this, that, and the next thing, which I think is great. We need a massive array of things. So ISIC Cons, and there's a lot of resources available there, videos, links. Follow them on Facebook is a good one to get a lot of the marketing. And if you want more information, just reach out to them. There's information at isiccons.org. And then go from there. And I know also Apex at the end of February has the existential balance, which is a course I did many years ago and got a lot out of. And my partner and I, Margalie, we're going to be participating in this one. We're going to give a short presentation around stuff as well. And the great thing is COVID actually has helped. And one thing, all of these activities now are online, are available online and stuff as well, which really, really helps take away the tyranny of distance, I suppose we could call it. So let's be more connected and see where we can take ourselves and how we can help.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for your participation and your questions, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks.